We've recently just purchased another business, literally just doubled our two businesses into two businesses. If that opportunity had come to me literally 6 months prior, it wouldn't have happened. Absolutely would not have happened, because my mindset would not allow it to even enter my world.
Hi everyone, Rob Crop here. Welcome to another episode. Really looking forward to today. How's things, Dan? How's the week been?
Week has been amazing. Had a great week. Enjoyed the coaching. Had a big week of basketball seasons finishing in my household, which is a huge thing. So WNBL season finished, and we're now on to something new. So looking forward to this weekend, actually. How about yours? What were you up to?
I've had a big week this week. Some exciting things happening on the business front. Personally, we've got Maddie, our middle child, our youngest daughter. She's 3 tomorrow, and so can't believe it. She's 3, and so we got family and friends coming around for a bit of a thing, and then we got an engagement party tomorrow night. So really looking forward to that. So busy time in our household at the moment, which is awesome. Really looking forward to today, though. We've got a very special guest, one of our amazing clients, Ahmad Radi from Radi Electrical. Big warm welcome to you, mate. Really great to have you on today's show.
Thanks, Rob.
And Dan, we got a real special treat for today. We've got a really amazing story. We've got lots to get through today, and it's going to be a really great opportunity just to pull back the curtain on some one of our clients' lives, their journey in business, their journey in coaching, and hopefully we're going to be able to really get to the depths of what it takes to run a really successful business and live a really great family life, isn't it?
It is, and I think we always say this to everyone we sort of speak to when we're in group settings, but success leaves clues. And I think these stories and these interviews is something we've talked about for a while, doing these to share these stories and hopefully give the listener the idea that there is these clues in these journeys that we're going to talk about. And certainly with Ahmad's story, it's going to be one of those ones that's filled with nuggets if you really pay attention. So looking forward to doing that.
So Ahmad, before we get too much into before we get into your story, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate. A bit about you, a bit about family, and tell us a bit about you.
Okay, so as you alluded to, my name's Ahmad Radi. I'm the owner of Radi Electrical. Got an awesome wife. I've been with her for 19 years since high school, which is pretty cool. And we've got 3 amazing kids. Isaac's 10, Layla's 7, and Evie's 5. We've got a team now currently of about 23, which I'm pretty proud of. We've got 17 ground techs and currently about 6 in the office. So yeah, that's us.
Excellent. Ahmed, when did you, just for the listener, when did you start working with Pravar Group?
That would have been February 2019 we started, yeah.
Wow. Part of the furniture you'd be. That's gold.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, but it is a while ago. So yeah, it's been an awesome journey.
Mate, 5 years. We've been so grateful to be part of your journey for 5 years. But gee, what a ride it's been, hey?
Mate, I'm scared to think otherwise. I've absolutely loved it, and it's not even furniture; it's just family now. It's just something that we just see. This is the family we're in, and keep going.
Yeah, I love that. And just so we do this, I'm going to ask this question just so the listener can bear this in mind as we talk and we go through all the things that are going on in your world and everything that you've integrated into your life. How many hours of work on average would you be doing a week, do you think?
Currently, look, to be honest, probably 35 to 45. That's what I control it to. So previously, completely different story. Currently, I'd say 35 to 45 hours a week.
Nice. Beautiful. All right. So let's jump in. We'll go in a bit of a time travel here. This journey we're going to go through somewhat in chronological order. So let's go back to the beginning and back to that time, February 2019, even a little bit before if you want to. But can you remember what life was like for you when you first sort of came into contact with Pravar? What was going on when you first crossed over that threshold and started this journey?
Yeah, Dan, it's honestly scary to think sometimes back that far, and I'll try to avoid it. But for the sake of this, I'll go back there. Look, they were real challenging times. When I think back of how I felt back then, I'd say the words lost comes to mind. Just didn't know what was going on. Family connection did not even exist. Being a father wasn't even on my radar. I was just trying to juggle so many things at one time. and I didn't know what I was doing. I was absolutely lost. The best way I could explain it, I remember when I first met Rob, was the vision of me running through a forest and just trying to dodge trees left, right, and center with absolute zero direction of where I was going, and just hoping I don't hit one of these big trees that are going to knock me out. Like, if someone can envision that, that's probably the best way I can explain how I felt at the time.
Yeah, and what was sort of the emotional space you were in? We talk a lot about people being trapped or having that feeling that there's just so many obstacles in front of them. But what were the sort of key emotions that you sort of live with every day?
Mate, it was just nearly giving up. It was just like, is there a point to this? Is there really like, what am I doing? Um, like the risk I was taking my family through at the time. Like, I clearly recall the conversation that Chantel had with me at the time, where she's like, dude, we need to make a choice. Is it going to be this business, or is it going to be the family? Because we can't see both going the way we're going at the moment. So to be hit with those kind of decisions, it's like, it's giving me goosebumps just speaking to you guys about it at the moment, just remembering those conversations, having with her. And it's scary to think what would have happened if I continued down that path.
Yeah, it's a big fork in the road, that moment where you get that huge or choice. It's the business, your baby that you've sort of built up. And it wasn't like year one for you in the business at that time. How long have you been going when this is going on, just so we can keep that context?
Yeah, so we just currently hit 10 years in December, which was an awesome milestone for us. But 2019 would have been about the 5-year mark, the halfway mark for us. And I clearly remember, like, we went through that roller coaster of good months, good years, bad years, but it got to the point where it was just too much. The emotion, like, I clearly remember the day, it was end of December. We were rolling towards that end of the year where, you start taking your foot off, you think you're having a break. But for me, it was like nearly the end of the road. Like, I was like, I don't know if I can do another year of this. And I was sitting there, and bloody one of Rob's Facebook ads come up on me, and I'm listening to it. And I'm like, this guy's talking to me. This guy's understanding me. And I walked up to Chantel and I showed her the video, and I said, this is it. This is the final decision. Like, I'm going to call this guy. If this is all BS, then I'm done. Or this has got to work. Like, that was the kind of, I remember that moment. It was something just hit me when I saw that video, and I thought, this is my final straw. So yeah.
Amazing. You talked about goosebumps. I got that as you were saying that. Then that's awesome. I don't know about you, Rob, but that's those moments of that call to adventure that people get. That this is it. I'm doing it, and you get that moment. It always gives you goosebumps, I reckon. Ahmed, can you remember? And I'm going to ask this question. Let's see how you answer it. But can you remember what you wanted to achieve in that time when you were looking at it and it's like, this is the last thing? Can you remember something where it was like, well, I'm here and this is what I'm really trying to get to? This is the one thing. If we could just achieve this, it'd be incredible.
Look, I'm sorry to say, it is embarrassing now when I think back of it, but it's not it shouldn't be embarrassing. But it just shows where my mind was at the time. But I remember speaking to Rob when I first got in the first month or so, and I said to the guy, I said, dude, if you can just give me 2-3 weeks off with my family, that we can go on a holiday, that I'm not going to get interrupted, my phone's not going to be ringing, and I can just have those 3 weeks with my family, I will give you everything I own. And I meant that at the time. That's what the wall I hit at the time was. That's all I wanted. I just wanted 3 weeks with my family without anyone interrupting us, and I'd give everything I owned. Now when I look back at that, it's like, seriously, dude, like, come on. But that's where I was at the time.
That's amazing. And do you think that, and just to put that into context, in your mind, like you say that now and you can see that sort of for what it is and things that have happened, which we'll talk about, but how big was that gap in your mind? Like, how big a dream was 2 to 3 weeks off with family at the time from where you were to what you were trying to become or what you were trying to achieve?
I'll be honest with you, Dan, like, if anyone can think of their greatest dreams, like, call it a $20 million house on the water, looking out the best beach in Sydney with the best car they can think of in their bloody garage, that was that dream for me at the time. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like, when I said to Rob, I'll give you everything I owned, I was willing to give everything I owned. Luckily, it wasn't written in a contract anywhere. Yeah, but that's exactly how I felt at the time.
Amazing.
Deep you were into it, though, wasn't it, Ahmed? Like, it just shows how much pressure you're under, the stress you're in, the constraints that you were feeling. It just, and it's not uncommon, mate. Like, I hear that day in, day out from guys in the trades and construction space where they're just like, Rob, I'm just under the pump, mate, and this is this is getting way too much. But it just shows that it's not uncommon. It's not an uncommon situation for guys in the trades and construction space. And you've seen that amongst the coaching along the time, but it's so common, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
And I think what you've done is you've described it as a holiday time away with family, but go back to that initial dilemma you found yourself in. It was business or family. It was a way of sort of saying, how do I go from having one or the other to having both, and saying I get this and I get to have that?
It's not like we weren't having holidays. We were having holidays, but I'm on the phone, I was on emails. Like Chantel's like, this is a joke. This is not a holiday. Like a holiday with your family, it's your time with your family without any interruptions, and that was never happening.
Yeah, great. So really good clarity about what the gap that we're trying to fill then in these early days. So let's talk about it and say that strategic journey, if you like, and the levers you pulled to meet some of those challenges. So how did you first, or remembering back that far, how do you remember some of the first things you did to begin in a strategic sense to close that gap?
So it's kind of going back to what I initially said, where I said to Chantel, okay, I've got to, if this thing works, it's got to work, or it's not going to work. So first thing I said is I've got to just trust. I've got to trust what these guys are going to ask me to do, and I've got to kind of just listen. And the first thing that I was told was we need to put an admin person in place. We had zero admin. Chantel and I were all hats. We were admin, we were accounts, we were ops, we were the cleaners in the office. We did everything. So when the coach first said, okay, we need to start looking at an admin person, I clearly remember when I interviewed the lady, I said to her, I don't even know if I've got a role for you. I've been told to hire you. I can't promise you anything. I don't even know if there is work for you to do, but I've been told I need to hire you, and let's just go with it. And it was a funny interview. She looked at me and she goes, so what? I go, look, I can guarantee you 6 months after that, I really don't know. And let's just say within 2 weeks, I was just like, how were we doing this without that lady? You know what I mean? So as soon as we pulled that lever and I saw the difference that made, that just grew my trust within the program. And I was like, okay, I was excited. Okay, what's the next lever? What's the next lever, coach? And the next big one was, hey, we need to get an operations manager in place, or a supervisor, or someone that's my right-hand man that's not on the tools, to get me off the tools and get me off the micromanaging of the everyday stuff, so I can look at the bigger picture of this business. And yes, that took a little bit longer than getting an admin lady. But that was the next probably biggest lever that we pulled. And yes, the first guy probably didn't work out for the first 3 months, and we had to get rid of him. And we learned from that experience. And we're like, okay, that's what worked, that's what didn't work. So when we looked again, we were a lot clearer on what we needed, and we found that person. And Mitchell's still with us now, 4 years down the track.
That's great. That's really great. So what we're talking about as levers in a coaching sense then is, let's look at how many hats you were wearing, or what you discovered about how much were you actually doing in the business. We say get an admin, but what was sort of the first task you handed off? And for the listener, think about, well, can you imagine Ahmed doing these tasks plus everything else in the business?
Yeah, look, one of the funniest tasks I remember was invoicing. I had this mindset of I was the only one in the business that knew how to invoice, because I knew what client was what and what rates were what, and it took me a while and that was one of our biggest items holding us back, because we'll be doing jobs and the client will be like 2 months later, Ahmed, when's that invoice coming? Yeah, I'll get to it, because I never had time, or you're sitting there till 12 o'clock at night trying to invoice jobs. But as we learned real quick, without invoicing, you ain't got money coming in. So having trust in letting go of that took me a while. But like looking at it now, I have to go to my team and check with them before I send an invoice out, because most of the time I get it wrong. That's the shift that we've had. So yeah.
And Ahmed, from memory, when you first started, I think you were doing around 1.7 mil a year in revenue turnover from a year. And mate, you must have been, for a trades business doing that much revenue, you must have been working long days and at nights and weekends, because normally when we're restructuring a client's business, it's getting off the tools and bringing admin comes earlier in that space. But gee, you must have been punching some hours out, and you must have been working nights and weekends. Like, no wonder things were fractured on the family front, yeah?
Yeah, and the scariest part, Rob, it wasn't just me. It was Chantel and I both juggling everything together. So it was zero family. It was literally just business, day in, day out. You're sitting at the dining table, you're talking about business. You're putting kids to sleep, you're talking about business. You're trying to be at friend's house at a barbecue, you're talking about business. Hey, I've got to send that invoice. Like, it was just business. Like, your head would just spin of just the amount of business stuff. It was purely business. I'd say it was 90% business and maybe 10% family.
Right. And in terms of these levers that we're talking about, and Rob mentioned restructuring or the structure of the business and getting the support for you to be able to offload and what we call LVTs or low value tasks, offloading those to an admin and having people in the positions to do some of that work. The mindset shift that had to happen in order to feel comfortable with that. Just talk us through some of the challenges that were there. Like, what were you expecting or what were you feeling when you sort of first got this person on? You talked about, I don't even know if I've got a job for you. So there's uncertainty for one, but sort of what fears or how was the trust factor working at that point? Not just with us as Pravar Group and coaching you, but the trust factor with new people coming into the business and just the leap you were taking at the time.
Oh, look, I think I had to tackle a lot of mindset issues at the time. One was people seeing numbers. You know what I mean? Like, I used to secure that stuff so tightly. Now I look at it and go, like, why? You know what I mean? You don't want people to see how much you're invoicing. Trust was a big one. I'd say trust was probably one of the biggest things that I held everything so tight, and I had the mindset of only I can do this. Only I'm the one that's the best person at this, and no one else can do this like I do. Because if they do, I'm going to lose these clients. I'm going to not get jobs invoiced correctly. They're going to miss things. I'm going to lose money. My brain, every time we were going through that journey, my brain will keep attacking me. My mind will keep attacking me with those words to fight against it. So trust was a big one. And the other one I went for is just the ability of knowing, can I afford these people? Because we're so used to employing techs, and it's easy to calculate, yes, I've got work for that tech. I charge him out an X amount of an hour. I can make that money back. It's profitable to some degree. But then when you start putting an admin lady and you're like, well, she's just sitting behind a desk, importing information. I'm not really charging her out. It's a real mind shift change of how you're dealing with that. And then obviously that grows to an operations person and so on, an accounts person. You've got these people sitting there in what I call these chairs that don't actually generate an income directly at the time when you look at it. And that was another mindset battle I had to get through.
Right. And then what did you actually find? Let's sort of roll forward a bit. So that was where we started and the early sort of friction you were sort of feeling as these gears in your mind are grinding away. What actually happened? And take us through some of that first cycle up to that first sort of next level that you reached, that first level up that you got to as a result of making some of these moves and pulling these levers.
The first thing that happened was time. Time just flushed back through. Like, I had no time at all, but before I knew it, I had all this time. I had so much valuable time because invoices were getting done by someone else. Jobs were getting looked after by someone else. You know what I mean? I started coming in going, well, what am I doing? And yeah, that's where we got to.
And what happened then I'll come back to the business side in a minute, but let's talk about then, well, what was the impact of that time and going back to that original gap? What was sort of the impact of the family? How did life change for you on the family man front?
Well, let's just say probably 8 months later. So we started in February, November that year. We were in Europe for 3.5, 4 weeks. Chantal and I and the kids. So that was that year we hit Europe for a good four weeks with the family, and we didn't have to deal with much. You know what I mean? Besides little things that Chantal had to do, which we hadn't sorted out in regards to accounts and paying, I did not have to deal with much at all, being on the other side of the world. So it was great to have that time going to soccer games with Isaac, exploring Europe with the kids. It was awesome.
Amazing. That gap was closed. That sort of initial place where you started from way back in December 19. So what was it, 12 months, I think you said? So by December 20, we'd sort of closed that gap. And
we started in February 19, and November 19, we spent 4 weeks in Europe.
That's right. So December 18 was the Rob video, and then it was December 19. So 12 months, you've closed that first loop, which is awesome, right? Now let's talk about what happened in a business sense then. So we've got the family side sort of now balanced out. We've got the and happening, not just the or, one or the other. in a business sense, what were you noticing in terms of, you talked about before, worrying about the affordability factor and what happened. So talk us through what happened in a business perspective from what you were looking at and what you were seeing as a pure business owner.
Look, those fees went real quick. It's like, I remember employing my first apprentice. You think, oh, do I need it? And then you put them on and you're like, oh, how do I do it without them? And then you jump on the next one. So those fees disappeared real quickly, and the benefits were obvious real quick. So what came from all that, one of the biggest changes we made that year was we also put a more detailed job management software in, and I was able to focus more on what was the business actually doing, where before I never had time to do that. And there was a joke, I didn't even know what a P&L was when I met Rod. You know, I mean, I honestly, when he asked me about P&L, there's an ongoing joke in our group that I thought it was a boat cruise he was talking about. You know what I mean? So learning the P&L in that first 12 months, I remember the first shift we did, and we had the right job management software in there. We started realizing, whoa, we're doing a lot of work, but we're not really seeing the outcome, because I was so driven on just do the work, look at your bank account. Yes, there's money in there, we're doing well. I never understood the true GP, bottom line, profitable type of work. So even though we're fixing things, I came to realize there's a lot of more problems ahead of me that I wasn't aware of.
In that space, Ahmed, in and around that time, isn't it amazing that when you start to dig into your numbers, you kind of start to know what does make you money and what doesn't make you money, and you can no longer run your business by gut feel, because ultimately that's what you're doing. You were measuring your success by how much money was in your bank, and you were measuring it by gut feel. And during that time, that was a big part of and this took a fair amount of time, this next strategy, this next lever around really shifting markets. That was a big thing for you, wasn't it? And in coaching, we call this your business identity. You've got to be really clear on who you are, which market you're in, and then really go hard at that market. But that was a big change for you, wasn't it, to really shift markets, due purely because the bottom line just wasn't as healthy as you wanted to in that market that you were previously in, yeah?
Yeah, so the struggle we went through was, to give some context, we were a business that did service and construction before we jumped into Pravar. So we were trying to be the best of both divisions, and we were doing okay in both, but we obviously didn't understand our numbers. And until we got the job management software stuff into place, we realized, hey, the service is actually just keeping us alive from the losses that we were doing in the construction space. And that doesn't, I'm not trying to say that construction does not have profits in it. It's just the way we operated and what was working for us. It wasn't working, but at the same time, you've got to realize, even though you're realizing these things and your coach is making you aware of these things, you still got this old head on you that's fighting against these. So even though I was seeing it and I've been told it, there was a voice in my head that kept saying, no. We still want to keep pushing construction, because construction gives us this guarantee of work and this big revenue of jobs. And even though the coach was early on flagging it to me and telling me, dude, this is not working for us, this is actually making us sink slowly, I secretly at the time was kind of agreeing with him, but also still creating jobs and trying to push for jobs. And it probably wasn't until I clearly remember the job. We won a pretty large job, close to $1 million. And he looked at me and goes, dude, seriously? I was like, yeah. And until we finished that job 12 months later, so this is another 12 months after that, December, and we looked at the numbers and was like, dude, we just lost 200 grand. And I just made a decision then and then. And we had put an estimator full time at the time sitting here. And we had grown our management team to support that. And then when we realized our numbers and we understood our numbers, I just literally just had to wake up one day again and go, dude, you need to trust this. You need to trust what your coach is telling you. And we'd looked into it deeper and understood what I really wanted to do, and that was service. And overnight, we just shut that down.
Isn't that interesting? And you're right when you said there, it's not about saying that construction doesn't work, because we've got a lot of scenarios where a lot of clients go from construction and service, where they ditch service because they're really good at residential construction or commercial construction, or they ditch construction and move more into strata facilities management and small projects. So it's not that that industry doesn't work. It just didn't work for you in terms of who you were, the business, the skill set of your team, and the direction you wanted to go. And so that was a real awakening for you, wasn't it? And so you're right. It's there's plenty of cases where you've got to almost go one side or the other, and diversify a little bit, but that was your direction. And that was a game changer for you, wasn't it? That's when things really took off for you. But you had to have a lot of patience during that time to allow that transition period to wash through. So there was a real transition period over that time, and when you did let go some of those arms, wasn't there?
Well, it's scary, Rob, because once you start understanding your numbers, you put the emotion aside and you start looking at numbers. And when you look at your numbers and it tells you, well, 50% of our revenue is coming from construction, and I've been told to shut this down, and you're going to yourself, well, we're going to half our business overnight. What, like, is this seriously the right thing we want to do? And that was what was scaring me the most. But we just had to believe and just trust and go, yes, you're not just completely turning the tap overnight. It's just a transition we're going to go through. And once you understand your numbers, you can plan for some rocky roads ahead, but you're prepared for them. So you know they're coming. You've got things in place for them. And that transition, I reckon, took us a good 12 to 18 months to go from, hey, we're not doing construction anymore, to we're purely going to be a service-based direct-to-client projects business.
Before we jump on from this, I want to make a bit of a point here. If you're listening to this here in this moment and you're wondering if this is really resonating with you, what you would have heard there from Ahmed is this was a well thought out strategic plan based on facts and figures, information, data and numbers. And this is not something that you should do overnight. Drop a revenue stream and run. And because what you'll do is cut your nose off to be able to move into a different direction. So if you're listening to this at the moment and you're trying to be all things to all people, this is where you need really good strategic advice, and you've got to be really clear on your identity. You've got to be really clear on where you're going. You've got to be really strategic. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to make sure you've got a transition plan over place. So Dan, it's just really mindful that if someone's listening to this, if you're listening to this, you've got to make sure it's strategic, isn't it?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, making the right decisions and at the wrong time, or making the right decision but without all the facts. And being an informed business leader means that you understand and you're using information to make these decisions. And for that, we use numbers. We look at the benefit, and the benefit of having a coach to coach you through this is the strategies that we know work, rather than just let's try this and do that. Because all you're really doing, in Ahmed's language, is planting more trees in the forest. So unless you plant the right trees and you know the way through those, you run the risk. You're actually improving your chances of success, but you're increasing the risk of failure as well. So doing it the right way is really, really important.
Great point. Love it.
So Ahmed, let's say we've done chapter 1 was the family rebalance, if you like. That was sort of restumping the family. Then we get into the business now is getting right-sized, and we're knowing the market we're in, and we're starting to achieve success in that space. Moving on, I mean, things change, right? We talk about the inevitability of change. Change happens all by itself. You don't have to do anything and things will change around you. You've made some amazing progress, and now that you've got the business going to that point, just a quick check-in before we move to sort of chapter 3. What was the business doing? How did it go? Once you'd made that swing, where are we now? I think we're at about January. We're sort of coming into the end of 2021 maybe, or we're starting to get to COVID time.
Yeah, COVID was a bit of a blur. We're probably deep into COVID by now. And that was another layoff challenge that added to what we were trying to do from a coaching point of view, was shift us more into service and away from construction. A lot of our service was, unfortunately, and still is, in the nursing home space. So I was smashed with another challenge of, hey, all our nursing home jobs are completely on pause. And I'm like, seriously, I'm being asked to do this, and now I'm whacked with this next challenge of having all our, predominantly 40% of our service work, 50% of our service work paused. That was extremely challenging. That was, but we just stuck it through. We believed in the system. Now we're going through 2021, mid through 2021, and just to touch a point, and that was a big benefit for me. I'm scared to think of if I wasn't a part of the Pravar family, of what would have happened, because at that time, man, we had a group of 40 awesome guys that were just leaning on each other every single minute, every single hour. Things were changing, if anyone remembers during those times, hourly. where the talk outside was all negative and people shutting down and spending time at the pub, where we were talking strategies, like how can we stay, how can we push jobs. So we survived that time. I was really happy the way we came out of that time. We kept our team. We didn't lose anyone. We supported all our family members in our team and everyone as a family. We got through 2021. We're coming into 2022. Our revenue wasn't getting smashed as bad as we thought. Like, my brain told me we're going to lose half our revenue because we're going to say no to construction. That didn't really happen because we found solutions and we just kept fighting. We're coming to now, end of financial year? You know what I mean? And we're back at our numbers. We're back at that $2 million mark that where we kind of started when we first started coaching was about that 1.7, 1.8, and we completely shifted industries. And I'm telling you, more than 50% of ours was in the industry that we exited.
Massive point there. Massive point, because everyone sort of thinks these stories, and you hear these sort of things that Ahmed's talking about, and you sort of tend to visual it on a straight line up. Like, it's amazing. He got his 4 weeks of leave. He did all this sort of stuff. He's got his family sorted. The business is doing better than ever. He's successfully transitioned. These were massive challenges. These were new gaps that kept opening up, and the potential for failure was imminent at all times. But those challenges kept popping up. And Ahmed, just talk quickly about your capacity to handle challenges and how that changed over time. So we know the challenges are there, they're getting bigger. What was happening with you at the time to be able to handle those challenges, do you think?
If I'm completely raw and honest, now, as of today, where I am and where I was back 21, 22, I wasn't handling them well. Face front, yes. In front of people, I was showing that I was handling everything well. In front of my family, I kept everything cool. In front of my friends, in front of my coach, in front of my team at Pravar, I was showing that that strong front, and I've got everything under control. But deep inside, it was a roller coaster ride. Like, going through all these things I'm speaking about, with nursing homes and changing industries, trying to hold staff during COVID, and going through all those changes and challenges. It took a massive toll out of me, I'll be honest with you. Then it was hard. It was not easy. But knowing myself now, when I look back then, I put a big front up. And that was interesting. Now when I look back at it, how I got through that, I don't know. But that then took us to 2022, and I literally felt like I went back through that cycle again, pre-coaching. I was faced with that same feeling of lost, confused, exhausted, but I was putting a front up that was covering it all up.
And this, I think, is the third chapter of your story, if you like. This is that idea that these challenges have been little tests along the way. You've been tested. You're saying, yeah, I'm all good for that. But looming on the horizon was something only you knew was coming. And they were pretty dark days when you got to that point. I remember the journey as we were going through it with the community, the group, coaching, all of that sort of stuff. But let's talk a little bit about how deep that hole was and what did those days look like? How were you showing up? You talked about how you showed up to everyone else, like everything was cool, but how were you, honestly, what was the dialogue inside you saying, and what was going on at that time?
Look, you can only do that for so long. You can only carry a ton of bricks on your back for so long before it collapses you. And I clearly remember we were in 2022, we're coming towards around this time where we're heading towards that end of financial year sprint. Everything was looking good because the numbers were showing everything was positive and everything was going well, but my brain was telling me otherwise. So every month we're tracking well, the numbers are showing good, but that voice in my head kept telling me, "What? You fluked another month. You're going to be, you've just it was all fluke. It's not going to happen next month. You're going to be shown to be a failure. You're going to be exposed." This is the fucking language, and this was the language that was going through my head at the time. But the front I was showing was, we're good, but the voice in my head just kept saying to me, you're going to be exposed. You're going to be exposed. You're just fluking month on month on month. And I probably thinking back, it wasn't until probably June that it really hit me hard, because for guys in Pravar, they'll understand this, but we have those quarterly mastermind get-togethers, and for me, those things, it's like a 10-year-old that waits for Christmas. That's what I feel when I go to these weekends, right? Come June time, something was completely different. Like that June mastermind is supposed to be our pinnacle weekend where we celebrate the year, and you're there with your partner, and we're at Hamilton Island. Like, where else fucking would you want to be with your partner? No kids. We're there for a week, and mate, I was in my darkest place in a very long time. But everyone around me is saying, fuck, Ahmed's doing awesome, he just survived all this, and he's back to where he was, and here with my wife, and everything should be happy. But deep inside me, I was the most miserable person that day. And I knew I was sitting in those masterminds, and I was sitting in those awards dinners, and I'm there with my wife on Hampton Island. I was not happy. And I knew then and then something is not right. And I have to say something, I have to do something, or it's not going to work. Yeah, that's where I was then.
And it's all because obviously on the outside it all looked good, but really it was the dialogue on the inside, wasn't it? It was on the outside it looked like everything was rosy and everything was amazing, and the environment that you're in was absolutely, we had such a great time in Hamilton Island in that time, but it was the feeling, it was the dialogue, it was the conversation, the noise in your head. It must have been negative, and man, you must have been beating yourself up like there's no tomorrow. Like, it was just negativity inside by the sounds of it.
Dude, anyone that looked from the outside, they'll think Ahmed's got it all. You know what I mean? But my head and that voice in my head was absolutely going the other way. It was pulling me back so hard, and it was putting me down, and literally bashing me every day. Like, getting up was a struggle because you had to listen to it. And no matter what environment I was in, like, come on, like, you're sitting in Hamilton Island, like, how can you be depressed? And I was just so down on myself. Anything that my coach would say, this voice would go completely against it. So my coach was like, sweet, we're hitting the 2 mil, mate. We're going to be pushing. We're going to go hit 3 mil next year. And my voice would just be literally laughing at me, going, yeah, good luck, mate. How are you going to break the news to this guy that we're not doing that because we're not capable of that? And that's honestly word for word of what that thing was saying to me in my head. That's what I was going through at the time, and it was draining.
So what happened next?
I came back from Hamilton Island, and I just said to myself, something's got to change. Something wasn't right about Hamilton Island. Like, you cannot feel that way when it's supposed to be one of the best times of the year that we really look forward to. Like, that's not right. And I jumped on a call with my coach Steve, which I'll be forever grateful for. And so I know I get a bit emotional just thinking about it, going back then. I jumped on the call with him, and he's on this. He's pumped. He's ready for the next financial year because we just done a cracker, and we're projecting to go next level. But my brain's telling me, man, we're going nowhere. We're going backwards. We fluked that 2 mil. Jumped on a call, and he's pumped. He's on the other side of the screen. He's pumped, ready to go, and I just broke. I literally just cracked. I just remember just sitting there, tears coming out, couldn't talk, and he's like, "What's going on? What's happening?" I said, "I don't know how to tell you, but that was the worst weekend of my life, and it should have not been." He goes, what are you talking about? I said, Hamilton Island. I was there, should have been happy, I should have been excited, but I wasn't, and I don't know why. And I know that is something that I need to address. Like, I knew there's something about that feeling that was not right. And it's so grateful for him at the time for picking it up, and he stopped everything at the time, and he's like, dude, we're stopping the whole strategy and all the business stuff. He goes, because that means nothing. I can't help you achieve any of that. And I was like, what are you talking? He goes, we just got to stop. He goes, we just got to focus on what is currently going on in your headspace. And obviously I've learned over time, ultimately that's where it stops and starts. And it's, now that I see it, it's so scary to know that, but it's literally, he made me realize it stops and starts there. And that's where our journey started. And probably the next 3-4 months, that's where the journey went.
Yeah, you made an amazing point there where, and Steve picking this up and working through this with you, was strategy can only take you so far. and strategy's critical, right? You've got to have the right strategy. If you don't, ultimately you're going to trip yourself up. But the opportunity to even get there is so much more determined by your mindset. And when we start talking mindset, and this is where we're going in the conversation now, is we're talking about beliefs. And if you're listening to this and hearing Ahmed speak, you can hear how the belief that he wasn't worthy was kicking in. The belief that he was an imposter was kicking in. The belief he didn't deserve what he'd achieved already was kicking in. And these beliefs have a real way of limiting us. So our beliefs either help us or hinder us. And at times, those same beliefs, the fear of failure, is a positive. That got you to where you were. I know you can see this now because we've talked about it. We're going to talk about it more. But that idea that what got me to here isn't going to get me to there is a real turning point in a mindset sort of conversation of this magnitude, because all of a sudden what was working for you started working against you.
And it's not like, Ahmed, that you couldn't see it. It's just that it was almost like that level of success became a barrier, wasn't it? It was a barrier, and it wasn't a physical barrier. It was a mental barrier for you, wasn't it? Did you want to talk us through a little bit about that feeling of that mental barrier? Because physically, there was nothing stopping you. You'd proven that you could cut half your revenue, build your team, move to that point, get back to there. But no matter what you tried, it wasn't a physical, it was a mental barrier, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, now that I look at it, it's clearly it's all a mental barrier. You know what I mean? But at the time, it physically felt like a physical barrier because, you know, we the voice in our head, we give it so much, you know, room and belief that we think everything it says is so true. And at the time, it held me back so much because I felt like everything I was doing wasn't happening. It was just every time we succeeded and we were actually doing the right thing, it would flip it on its head and make it a negative. And it's like, well, no, dude, you just fluked another month, or no, that job we wouldn't have got because you just somehow magically got it. It's not going to happen again. So even though we were getting the right clients and we were doing the right things, everything right we were doing, it was flipping it on its head and making it a negative.
And that everything that you just said there is driven by mindset, as everyone understands. But your mind is so powerful; it will control how you feel. If you think a certain way, you will feel certain emotions. So it will kick in hard if you've got these thoughts and this dialogue going on that's telling you one thing. It'll create the environment to back that up, and all of a sudden you're in a hole and you're like, how the hell did I get here?
In coaching, we talk a lot about upper limiting behavior, and this is just a prime example of what an upper limiting behavior was. And it's not done through our rational mind, it's done through our rational conscious mind. It's done through subconsciously in our mind. And so what this is and I know this sounds a little bit woo-woo and a little bit black art, and some people either believe this or don't, but I just categorically know we talk a lot about this here at Pravar in all our programs, because each and every one of us has got an upper limit at some point. And when we hit that upper limit, we hit it and bounce, hit it and bounce, hit it and bounce. And unless we go through the personal journey to upgrade our mindset to increase or expand our upper limit, then the chances of us living a life, a family life, a health and well-being, or a business, and expanding that beyond that upper limit, it just will never happen. And I know that might sound a little bit crazy if this is the first time you're hearing this. And Ahmed, you're probably thinking, this is crazy. Why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? But this was just purely an upper limit, wasn't it? It was just a barrier that you'd hit. And this upper limiting thing really started your journey to be able to go on that journey to shift those beliefs and work through this stuff going on in your mind. But it was the awareness and the acknowledgement that a barrier was there in the first place, wasn't it?
Correct, and that's what my coach helped me do. It made me realize that, hey, this is a massive barrier. And so as soon as I understood that, I understood real quick that I've got to start sharing everything this voice says. Like literally everything it said, I just started sharing it with my coach. So if he says something to me and that voice, and it might sound crazy and it might sound stupid, but I was literally just saying, hey, Steve, it's saying X, Y, Z. I just had to it felt like I was talking to a doctor and just giving him symptoms. Like, dude, this is what it's saying. And I had a few sessions with Dan as well that really helped me. And it didn't take long. Honestly, I reckon it took us about 3-4 months for me to get enough of an understanding of what that mindset, how important it is to understand that mindset. And it was like someone showing you how to do a few workouts at the gym, and then I was able to take that and continue working through that myself.
And if you're listening here thinking, where is this voice appear? It's not what you physically say. It's what you think when you're by yourself. It's when you're having a shit. So when you're having a shower. It's when you're going for a walk down the beach or whatever it is. It's in you when you're in those quiet times. You don't even realize you're thinking it. And Ahmed, that was just, these thoughts were your dominant thoughts without you even realizing it, were they? They were just going on in your mind where these limiting negative thoughts in your headspace, they were just almost just going on repeat over and over again, weren't they?
And yeah, and Rob, they don't go. It's not like once you figure it out, you can flick a switch and these voices just go away. Dude, they still come and they still haunt me. I've just learned to pick them up a lot quicker. I've learned to address them. I've even got a post-it on my screen right now that tells me, is that thought helpful? Is that thought true? It's something I continually challenge those voices, because they're not going to go away. They're always going to be there, like fear, doubt. They're always going to be there as you grow as a person.
Yeah, it is. And I think I'm just going to where we went to with this and a real example of how it's not the woo side of it and we just sort of talk about it. We worked on, for instance, language and being able to pick up on what those trigger points were. And it's crystal clear. And I remember that conversation when you said we worked together. We had one conversation where I was listening to you talk and there was this word that kept coming up over and over and over and over again. You're on a roll and you were telling great stuff, but this one word kept coming up. And this was right in the middle of this period. Do you remember what that word was? Failure. It was failure. And I remember saying it at the time. He finished, we laugh about it a bit now, but Ahmed finished this really sort of big point he was making in a little group call we were having. And all I could say to him was, fuck, you say the word failure a lot. and it was from that moment I sort of said, well, let's work on that and use that, right? That's the success leaves clues. If you listen to that self-talk without believing it all, but you're analysing what's being said, what's that word, what's that trigger? Because every time Ahmed would say failure, his body would change. His body language would shift. He'd be in a state that just drove him further down. Every time he thought about it, made him feel worse. So we put that into place as a strategy on mindset as opposed to like a business strategy. And all of a sudden, failure was now no longer in his dictionary. It was going to be a word that we banished. And tell the story then, Ahmed, and move us through this, sort of bring this home in terms of all this mindset work with Steve, the group calls with Rob, the community. How did things change when you broke through that barrier? All of this coming together. How did you feel once you started to make these moves on mindset?
Everything was just getting clearer. It was just like opportunities started opening up. You just realize real quick that you are your biggest limiter. You are what's going to stop you from achieving. And I know it sounds crazy. And the crazy part is I've heard Rob say these things a million times through my coaching journey. And you hear things, but you don't really understand them until you experience them. And when someone says to you, you are the biggest limiter, your brain can, without you feeling, say, no, dude, it's me getting the work. I need to win that work to grow. But no, it is you. I don't care about the work. The work is an outcome of your mindset. You know what I mean? But when I used to hear these things, I never really believed them or understood them. But as soon as I woke up to it, I started realizing, no, it is me. It is my mind. It all stops and starts with me. So we went through that journey. I started reading a lot about mindset. I started listening to a lot of podcasts and educating myself, picking up, being aware. And it really made me feel straight away, I go, man, I need to share this with my family. I need to share this with my young kids. Like understanding how much they are impacted by mindset, you know what I mean? And fast forward 6 months, it just felt awesome. I was like, a ton of bricks was off my shoulders. And the results were showing. Our business just literally grew 50% over the next 12 months, purely just from me breaking through those chains of barriers. And it doesn't mean the challenges go away then. Like, I just want to be very clear. It didn't mean as soon as I went through this journey of mindset, all of a sudden it was all flowers and roses and people weren't leaving and clients weren't dropping and these defects weren't happening on jobs. Like, the problems were still there. It's just how I started viewing these as challenges and looking at them from a positive point of view. And I changed my mindset, and when something went wrong, I'll put it back on, okay, what can we improve from this? Instead of focusing on what went wrong and the negative outcomes of it, was, okay, what's the positives can we get out of this? I kept focusing on positives, and okay, we need to implement this so this doesn't happen again. And, changing the language I spoke in my head. Fast forward 12 months, we had a record year of 3.3 million last financial year. And that really shows you just from breaking through those barriers.
Yeah, and talk about that point. Let's use that as our sort of point and talk through end of financial year last year. We're at 3.3 mil. Family's doing what? How's family going? How's personal going?
Everything was perfect. And this is probably, just remind me, probably perfect example. Back again, Mastermind Weekend. We're in Fiji. Take it next level from Hamilton Island. You know what I mean? I think we spent nearly 3 weeks there. I extended the holiday with the family. Everything was going awesome. We just smashed record year. Everything was going awesome. I come back to Sydney, and I've been smacked with a massive left curve, ball, smashed. You know what I mean? Like losing one of our biggest contracts. You know what I mean? Any old Ahmad, if I can say, mate, would have just folded and gone, done. I'm done. Like, stuff this, stuff your coaching, stuff everything. You know what I mean? I can't do this anymore. But because I spent the last 12 months literally working out my mindset, it felt like I came back and go, you know what? This is a test I've been getting prepared for. You know what I mean? I came back literally into the office, and the team were like, Ahmed, we got no work. This contract's just been paused on us. And literally came back to everyone with their hands up in the air. And I was like, sweet, easy. That's all right. Let's just get through it. It's just a period of time. I didn't let the negativity impact me. I just looked down and go, cool, let's just work through it. Let's do what we need to do. Keep positive. You know what I mean? It didn't mean that the challenge wasn't there. The challenge was there. It's just how I approached that challenge.
It is. And I think we can talk, and we're not going to go into that challenge and how you overcame it. It's going to be more of the same, right? It's going to be the power of your mindset. It's going to be the support of the group and what we do with you as coaches in a community. It's going to be the strategies that go in from a business perspective, but it's actually being able to execute and having that relentless ability to keep executing. If we look at it from where we're at now, is there anything in particular you'd say to the listener at this point about the journeys you've been on, these cycles that we talk about? We call them heroes' journeys. It's a well-known thing, but these journeys that you go on, these cycles of challenge, hit it, get tested, improve. What would you say to the listener at the moment about someone who's sitting on that sort of spot where maybe they're teetering on a big challenge or a call to action, or they're struggling with something? What would you say to someone at that moment?
Look, I hope just going through what I've been through, people can see it. Coaching doesn't guarantee you're going to have not problems. It's not a band-aid fix of all your problems are going to go away. You know what I mean? Business is business. That's the game that we play. The challenges will be there every day. You know what I mean? It's having that supportive team there to help you. And the journey I went through, to give you the old mindset, when we talk numbers, 2 million was a barrier in my head. Was a barrier I could not break through mentally, because my mind kept telling me, you're never going to achieve it. You're fluking 2 million, dude. Now we've broken through that mental barrier. Like when I talk to my coach now and I envision and I look at where I want to be in the future, and the numbers aren't limiting there anymore. You know what I mean? And it's funny, I'm a big believer in energy and in the universe, and you know what I mean? People can think whatever they want, but then as soon as we broke through that, these opportunities just started coming out of nowhere. We've recently just purchased another business, literally just doubled our 2 businesses into 2 businesses. You know what I mean? If that opportunity had come to me literally 6 months prior, it wouldn't have happened. Absolutely would not have happened, because my mindset would not allow it to even enter my world. You know what I mean?
What I love about your journey, Ahmed, is that there's a lot to your story that we won't get through today, as you shared your client feature session in Fiji. And maybe if you're feeling a little bit sad on our awesome client weekends, maybe our awards weekends need to be at McDonald's or something. I don't know, maybe. Or maybe we just need to downgrade them a bit. But what I love about your story, mate, and what I loved about your story at the client feature session is you've been through a lot in your life, a lot, more than more than you'll ever hear today. And your story was so raw at our client feature session that we do it on our mastermind weekend. But it's your ability that fear is what got you to where you were, but fear then became your biggest limitation. And you were driven to provide for your family, be there for them, set them up in Australia like you were never able to back in war-torn country. And your ability to be able to push through and to achieve that point was all driven by fear. And what I love about your story, mate, is that then became your biggest obstacle. But the moment you were able to work through that, it became your biggest fuel for another layer of success. And like you said before earlier, is that fear doesn't go away. Challenges don't go away. Doubt doesn't go away. It's just as leaders, we learn how to navigate the waters around these things that we come up against. And that's what I love about your story the most. And you're right, that second business that you've just purchased, you wouldn't have done that unless you overcame that. And if you look at where you are today in terms of what you're achieving from the family with Radi Electrical, this new business that you've achieved, all of that's come off the work that you've done on your mindset to be able to take your mind, expand it, overcome these issues and get to another level. And that's what I admire about your story the most. And it's been one hell of a drive, one hell of a journey, hasn't it?
Man, I feel like honestly, we're just starting this journey. I know it sounds crazy, and I've been in coaching since 2019, so you're not getting rid of me anytime soon, right? Because I literally feel like we're just starting, like we're just hitting that second gear now, and just picking up a bit of traction.
That's awesome. Mate, I'm going to give you a minute just to reflect, because I know this is a big part of the journey and what we do in our time together, but to hear from you just what it means to be part of the Pravar community, and you've talked about the Pravar family, just in your own words, whatever you want to say, just tell us what it means to you to be in this sort of environment that we all feel like we're blessed to be in.
Dude, it's extremely hard to explain to someone that's not in it, like, you know what I mean? Because without it making it sound salesy or whatever, it's extremely difficult for me. But I honestly, the guys in the group, the best way I explain it is they're a layer of mates that I don't think I'll ever have anywhere else outside this group. Like, I know I call any of those guys right now, and I'm telling you, they're not all in Sydney. I can call someone in Melbourne right now and say, dude, I need something. I guarantee you they'll be on the next flight to Sydney at my front doorstep within 24 hours. And I mean that. And I'll do exactly the same for them. And to have that kind of friendship and those honest, true mates, because the definition of a mate is a mate that wants you to be better. Not a mate that just taps you on the back and goes, oh, it's okay, poor Ahmed. No, it's a mate that pushes you. Mate wants to see you achieve more. You know what I mean? It calls you on your bullshit. And that's what I get, and that's what I love about these guys. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Mate, I think where we're at, I think this is a great time to wrap it up. I know you've got to get going to what you need to. From my perspective, all I want to say to you is that, mate, and I wanted to say this at the start, but anyway, you're unapologetic. It's an unapologetic drive. There's an honesty and a commitment to facing the facts, never settling and making shit happen. And it just makes you an inspirational business leader and an amazing family man. And I think more than that, though, your likability, loyalty, and love for life makes you an amazing friend to all those guys, to Rob, myself. And as much as you say you've got from us, we get a hell of a lot from getting to know you and work with you, mate. So from all of us on behalf of Rob, I don't know if you want to add anything, Rob, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you, mate. It's been one hell of a journey, and we're super grateful. And thanks for being on today. And mate, you've got one hell of a story and one hell of you've been on one hell of a journey. So thank you very much for sharing your journey. If you've been listening to today, hopefully you've got some insight into the journey that Ahmed's been, and really overlay your story in around that. We spoke a lot about strategy, we spoke a lot about mindset, leveraging, structure, but a big part of this was upper limiting behavior and the beliefs that you hold. And so if you're going through in your journey at the moment and you're feeling like you're on that hamster wheel and you're just not moving ahead, maybe it's time to pause and stop and reflect, to be able to go, well, what are the beliefs? What are the behaviors? What's the conversation going on in my mind that's potentially not conducive to where I want to go? And if you can really work through that, then and start to become aware of those thoughts and those ideas and those mindsets, then that's going to be the start of the awareness and the journey that you can embark on to be able to take your business and life to another level. So Ahmed, thank you very much. Really appreciate today, and thank you for sharing one hell of a journey. It's awesome, mate.
Thanks, Jones.